In this video, we're learning how to solve quadratic equations by using what's called the quadratic formula. So if we take a look at example 1, we have this quadratic x squared plus 9x plus 20, and it's equal to 0. Now, you probably know that you could try and factor this equation, and this one is factorable, but we can also use the quadratic formula, which is useful when our equations are not factorable. However, you can use it for any quadratic. So I'm going to show you guys how we can use it and what the equation is. So the quadratic formula says that x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And what we have to remember is what a, b, and c are in our quadratic. So I'm going to write up here that a quadratic is written in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c. So that's going to help us understand what our a, b, and c values are. And I'm going to put a 1 in front of our x squared in our example so that we understand that our a value is 1, our b value is positive 9, and our c value is positive 20. So now what I'm going to do is just plug in our values into this formula. So I have x is equal to negative b, so our b is 9, so I'm going to put negative 9, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 9 squared, minus 4 times our a value of 1 times our c value of 20, and that is all over 2 times our a value of 1. And I'm just going to start simplifying this. So we have negative 9 plus or minus the square root. 9 squared is 81. And negative 4 times 1 times 20 is going to give us a negative 80 or minus 80. So we have 81 minus 80. And this is all over 2 times 1, which is 2. And down here, I'll continue to simplify. So we have negative 9 plus or minus, and then in our square root, 81 minus 80 is just 1 over 2. And now we can take the square root of 1, which is just 1. So we have negative 9 plus or minus 1 over 2. And now you guys may notice this plus or minus symbol. So this is showing us that we have to add 1 to negative 9 and subtract 1 from negative 9 and then divide our answers by 2. So we're going to get 2 answers for our quadratic. So what we're going to do is split this up. So we can say x is equal to negative 9 plus 1 over 2 or negative 9 minus 1 over 2. And then we're going to simplify each of these separately. So I'll do that over here. So negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. So we get that x can equal negative 8 over 2. Or negative 9 minus 1 is negative 10. So or negative 10 over 2. And finally, just simplify these a little bit more. Negative 8 over 2 is negative 4. And negative 10 over 2 is negative 5. So we get that x can equal negative 4 or negative 5. So if you have some whole number underneath your square root, you'll end up getting 2 answers. If you have a 0 under there, you'll only end up getting 1 answer because adding and subtracting 0 is the same, but always just mentally check that you're getting the correct number of solutions. Let's take a look at example 2, which is 3x squared minus 10x plus 4 equals 0. So I'm going to start by writing the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now I'm going to write down what our a, b, and c values are. So our a is 3, our b is negative 10. We want to take the sign that goes with the term, and our c is positive 4. And now we want to plug these values into our equation. So we're going to have x is equal to negative b, so negative 10, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so our b value of negative 10 squared, minus 4 times our a value of 3 times our c value of 4, all over 2 times our a value. So all over 2 times 3. And now we're just going to start to simplify this. So negative 10 is positive 10, plus or minus the square root. Negative 10 squared is positive 100, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And then negative 4 times 3 is 12, or sorry, negative 12 times 4 is going to give us a negative 48. And this is all over 2 times 3, which is 6. We're going to continue simplifying. We're going to have 10 plus or minus. Under our root, 100 minus 48 is going to give us a positive 52, and this is over 6. And then we want to check to see if we can simplify this root. So 52 is divisible by 4, and 4 is a perfect square. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify this root. And if you guys haven't already done so, I encourage you to watch our video explaining how to simplify square roots. So we can rewrite this as the square root of 4 times the square root of 13. That's over 6. And then we're going to write as 10 plus or minus. The square root of 4 is 2. So we get 2 times the square root of 13 over 6. And now we just want to simplify a little bit more. So we can divide 10, 2, and 6 by 2. So we're going to want to do that to simplify our answer. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So I'm just going to write it as root 13 instead of 1 root 13. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And we can't combine 5 with positive root 13 or negative root 13. So I'm going to leave my answer in root form like this, simplified radical form. So I get that x is equal to 5 plus or minus root 13 over 3. Let's go through 2 more examples just to make sure we really understand this. So for these last 2 examples, I encourage you guys to pause the video and try them on your own, and then you can unpause the video and watch me work through them to make sure that you've solved them correctly. So example 3 is negative 5x squared minus 13x plus 6 is equal to 0. So let's start by writing the quadratic formula, which is x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that is all divided by 2a. And let's figure out what our a, b, and c values are. So our a value is negative 5, our b value is negative 13, and our c value is positive 6. So now we're going to plug those into our equation. So x is equal to negative 13 plus or minus the square root of negative 13 squared minus 4 times our a value of negative 5 times our c value of 6 all over 2 times our a value of negative 5. Now we're going to start simplifying. So negative 13 is positive 13 plus or minus the square root. Negative 13 squared is 169. And negative 5 times negative 4 is going to give us a positive 20. Multiply that by 6 and we should get a positive 120. And this is going to be over 2 times negative 5, which is negative 10. And now I want to simplify this some more. So we're going to get 13 plus or minus, and under our square root, 169 plus 120 is going to give us 289, and that's going to be over negative 10. And now 289 actually has a nice whole number square root, so we're going to simplify this. So we get x is equal to 13 plus or minus the square root of 289 is 17 over negative 10. And then we're going to break this into 2 solutions. So we get x is equal to 13 plus 17 over negative 10, or 13 minus 17 over negative 10. And then we can simplify these some more. And I'm just going to erase part of our screen because we're running out of space, and I'll keep what's important. So let's continue simplifying this. So for our first solution, 13 plus 17 is going to give us a 30 over negative 10, or 13 minus 17 is going to give us negative 4 over negative 10. And then we can simplify these a little bit more. 30 over negative 10 is negative 3. And negative 4 over negative 10 can simplify to a positive 2 over 5. So we get that x is equal to negative 3, or positive 2/5. And finally, moving on to our last example, we have x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to 0. So I'm going to start by writing our quadratic formula. We have x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now let's figure out what a, b, and c are. I'm going to put a 1 in front of our x squared so that we understand that a is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 8, and c is equal to 16. And let's start plugging in our values. So we have x is equal to negative b, so negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so negative 8 squared, minus 4 times our a value of 1, times our c value of 16 all over 2 times our a value of 1. Now we're going to simplify. Negative 8 is positive 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared is positive 64, and negative 4 times 1 times 16 is negative 64, and this is over 2. And then let's simplify what's in the square root. So 8 plus or minus 64 minus 64 is 0, so we get the square root of 0 over 2. And this is what I mentioned in our first example. If our square root has a 0 under it, we're actually only going to get one answer because the square root of 0 is just 0. So we have 8 plus or minus 0 over 2, and adding and subtracting 0 is just the same. So we end up with one answer of 8 over 2, which simplifies to 4. So we get that x is equal to 4. So hopefully this video helped you guys understand how to solve quadratics by using the quadratic formula. If you want more practice with problems like this, check out the link in our description for a free practice worksheet.